Okay, okay. I think someone is recording already. So, so I went to Ladoke Akitola University of Technology. So I know of the process there. Immediately you get to 200 level, so you write MBBS exam, and they will take you to their what do they call it? Teaching hospital. Okay, and I also know that by the time they get to that level, 200 level before they write the exam, what they normally do is that this is the process. They have, they have the course outline. Each course outline is more like taking each part of the human body. So let's say when they discuss about the human brain in the class, so the next thing is they go for practical. The practical is the case study aspect of it. So they give them a cadaver. A cadaver is a dead body, right? So they will just put them in groups and present cadaver for them and say everything we have taught you under the brain, maybe a particular aspect of the brain. They now tell them to, or the human head, they now tell them to look at that particular aspect. Maybe they want them to focus on maybe the brain now, or the eyes, or the nose. So they now ask them to go and do the practical on it and write a report. That is one side of it. Another thing they also do, even in the medical profession, is after, excuse me, please. After they get to about 400 level or 500 level, they take them to, they start doing, they attach them to senior medical doctor, right? They put them in groups and attach them to senior medical doctors, and give them like responsibility. So they take them through, they show them how to do ward runs, if that is the term they use. So maybe in the morning you have to go and check your patient, the patient they have assigned to you. They teach them how to check patients, how to diagnose, how to do everything a medical doctor should know how to do. That is the medical line. We can also talk about the law profession. I know after graduating as a law student, you go to the law school. So I want to believe in the law school, you learn the practical aspects of the law profession. Now, the idea behind case study is that you will see that what the medical in the medical academics, what they are trying to achieve is that, of course, when these medical students, when they graduate, they will be attending to real life patients, not cadaver again. Even when they have given them cadaver, they will be attached to real life, and they need to be taught the practical and the real life aspect of the profession. Imagine a medical doctor that has never touched human body before, that has never interacted with human before, that has never done anything that bring them very close to the reality, or to the patient that they will be attending to when they qualify eventually. So in a simple sense, case study looks more like a gap, bridging the gap, or bridging the gap between theory and practical in a particular profession. So what is case study? We can say that case study, a business case usually imitates or simulates a real life situation. So we are coming back to the accounting profession, to the management profession now. So a business case usually imitates or simulates a real life situation of the actual state of affairs of a business. So when it comes to business case study, it means that we are having a kind of simulation of a real life issues that businesses face. Businesses face a lot of issues. Let me quickly take you back to when COVID-19 started. We still have that memory fresh in our brain, right? So many businesses were affected, particularly the hospitality industry, the hotels, the clubs, and all that. They were shut down totally. The event centers and all that, it was total shut down. The eateries shut down. Now, imagine the impact that shutdown will have on the business. That is that is a pandemic. Now we can talk about economic issues. The other time, Ukraine and Russia started war. The war, because there is a sea that that most of the vessels that transport, crude materials or refined petroleum materials to Africa countries, a sea passed through the two countries. So because of the war, the vessels, the big ships, they have to just stay somewhere and wait for a green light for them to pass before they could move. What happened? There was there was a massive increase in prices of petroleum products. Prices were just going up. And the what is our business with the war between Ukraine and Russia? In Nigeria here, many businesses were feeling the impact of that war. We could talk about the aftermath impact of even the COVID-19 that we are even experiencing now. We are having the issue of low supply of agricultural products, and that is why prices are increasing now. And you can see because of that, many things are being affected. The removal of fuel subsidy recently by the Tinubu administration. Yes, it is also affecting. So many businesses are experiencing business issues. So a case can simulate these issues and present it to you as a management student, as accounting student, to test your ability to solve these business problems when you actually qualify as a professional accountant. That is the idea behind case study. Now, it can also be a verbal representation of truths that place the analyst in a role in order to act as though a participant in the painted situation. So what I mean by that is that, so the case will usually have a place for you as the analyst so that you can demonstrate your skill as a professional in the case. Now, one thing I would like to tell you is that case study, one thing I will have to stress to you is that case study may be based on real life or fictional situations. So fictional situation could mean that the examiners could think of a possible series of issues that a business might be going through and set it and give it to you as and present it to you as the case. On the other hand, they might actually present a past real life scenario for you to work on. Now, I can give you examples of the past real life scenario that ICANN has tested. If you remember that around 2015, right, I think 2016 specifically, around 2016, maybe late 2015, 2016, there was massive issue of explosion of Samsung phones. I think they call it series 7 or thereabout. Series 7 or thereabout. If you could remember, there were explosions all over the world. BBC reported it, CNN, most of these international networks, they reported the issues. It happened here in Nigeria as well. Many Nigerians reported the issue in Nigeria as well, that their phones are exploding, the phone will just explode from their pocket. Maybe they are charging it somewhere, it will explode. The battery will get hot and explode. Right. So in May 2017 died, ICANN tested that particular scenario. They call it Jaga Jaga Technologies. And it was about, though they didn't call it, instead of saying Samsung Technologies PLC or Samsung PLC, they call it Jaga Jaga PLC. But when you read this case, nobody will tell you that, oh, this case is talking about that Samsung scenario. Again, in November 2019, if you could remember that when Buhari came in 2015, and when he was presenting the 2017 budget, when he was presenting the 2017, he made this remark that his administration will focus more on agriculture. And they were supporting agriculture that time. Some people said because of his promise, that was why they put more priority on the cattle, right? I mean, I don't know, but they tested that particular scenario in November 2019. Detroit Farms and Farms Products Limited. Again, in March, July 2020, in fact, this one is the in fact this one is the most recent that you can relate with. You know, in 20, I think in 2020 we were supposed to have 3 diets. Yes, we were supposed to have 3 diets. So the first diet was supposed to be held in March. So we were done with everything. In fact, we have been given the pre-scene. We have analyzed the pre-scene. We were set for the exam, and they declared they shut down the economy. What happened? Because of the COVID-19, I can't to say, oh, we cannot write this exam. We have to wait till what the government decide later on. So in July, what they did is they had to cancel the earlier case. You know, they've given us a precedent. They canceled it and they brought another case. They call it the Chartered Institute of Business Advisors. What did this case test? It tested the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. And from my own perspective, the case was about the impact of the pandemic on what? The impact of the pandemic on ICANN as an organization. That was what they did. Again, you can see that is that the case has tested that pandemic that actually happened. We could talk about the healthcare issues in Nigeria. And in May 2021, they tested the Oga Specialist Hospital Limited case. The fashion industry too, they tested the Best Price Fashion what? Fashion Limited. So again, cases can be fictional or present a real life scenario to you. And I can tell you, I can guarantee you that most of the time, ICANN will give you a real life scenario. Okay, of course, all right, don't let me go there, sorry. Then what are the properties of a case? What should you be expecting from a case that is presented to you? Now, the first thing you should expect, you should notice that the information could include noise, irrelevancies, points that have dead ends, points that are false, that are biased, or points that are limited in idea. Okay, now one thing you will notice is that a very good example is that usually in cases we are normally presented with the board information, right? We are usually presented with board information. And what I notice is that apart from, most students we are normally they normally get carried away. They normally get distracted by the board information and start and what they normally do is they start focusing on the board information and say and be asking about it, maybe discussing and all that. And what they normally do is that they will leave out the main issues in the case and be discussing the board issue. Meanwhile, the board issue oftentimes are never the issue raised in the case. Okay, so you should be aware of this so that you are not you do not get carried away by all these irrelevancies, dead end, false or biased information. Now again, there could be unstated information. There could be unstated information. Okay, there could be unstated information, and it is also related to non-linear structure of the case. Now, what that means is that your normal textbooks, your normal books, your normal story books, every other books you read, they are always presented in a linear way, in a logical way. What I mean by that is that if you pick SFM for instance, you will see that from the first chapter to the last, when you look at the first chapter is more like a basic introduction. Then if you look at the second, third, fifth, and all that, you will see that there is a gradual introduction of other topics that builds on the first chapter or first, second, or third chapter. Other ones will be built on them, and it makes it a very logical one. When you are reading, you understand it, very easily. Case study Case study will never be presented in that way. There will be some information that will not be stated. Some information will be scattered abroad. You can have some information. We call the way the case is presented, we call it exhibit. So you might have part of a particular part of the story in exhibit 1. Part of it may be distributed in exhibit 7. You might find the rest in exhibit 15. And as such, you will see that when you read a case, most time, when you read a case, you will not understand it. You will not. And that makes it one of the core problems. Please note it. One of the very critical issues or challenge that we normally one of the very critical challenges that students normally face or encounter when dealing with case study material, they find it very difficult to comprehend the case story. And that is in fact, that is the first step in passing case study. You have to be able to understand the case story. Just like when you have your friend has just invited you for a discussion on a particular issue he or she has been going through, maybe in a family, or maybe in a relationship, or maybe in the office. And on getting there, your friend started talking to you, just you about all the story. But for one reason or the other, maybe your friend is the kind of person that talks very fast, and maybe they normally that kind of person uh, will not normally explain clearly. But you did not understand the story that he or she has narrated. How do you think you will be able to provide the needed advice to your friend? See, there's no two ways about it. It will be impossible for you to do that. It will be impossible. It is unless you understand the story behind the issue she has presented to you before you can make a very reasonable contribution to the case. And the same thing is applicable to case study. So, because it is not normally presented in a linear structure, in a logical structure, you will have that challenge of comprehension. So, one of the things I will do to you in this class is that I will take you through a process by which you can read and comprehend cases. So, what is then your role as an analyst in a case? What is then your role as an analyst in a case? Excuse me, please. So, what is your role? Please, can you remind me the time we are supposed to end this class?
12:30.
12:30, sir.
Okay, 12:30, right. So I want to know so that I can give you time to ask questions. Okay, that's good. So, what is then your role as an analyst in the case? The first thing you have to do is that you have to be able to identify, right? Identify, let me add something to it. Identify the core problems. You have to identify the core problems, not just problems. There may be some problems that are not key, right? You have to be able to identify the core problems. Okay, so possibly the case has presented a scenario that there are issues as to liquidity and all that. There are issues to liquidity. The business, though the business is making profit, right? The business is declaring profit because the revenue is growing year in, year out. They are declaring profit. But there is no cash. There is no cash. So what could be the problem? So some people might be looking at some other things, but if you look at that issue, if they are making sales, they are making the revenue is growing. That means their problem is not about it's not even related to pricing. It's not even related to maybe marketing. It's not even related to production because they are making sales. The revenue is growing. So what could be the problem? The problem will likely be that we are talking about liquidity problem, cash, non-availability of cash in the business. The problem will likely be that they have invested the working capital in what? In inventory. They will likely have huge inventory in their financial position, sitting there in the business. They have huge inventory. The other side is that they will likely have high what do you call it? Receivables. So let me share a real life experience with you. I used to have a client. Yes, I have a client that sells these local and exotic fruits in Lagos here in Lekki, Lagos. So I have this client. We manage the client. My firm manage the client, and so after preparing their reports, we normally go for management meeting, whereby I have to go and meet the owner of the business, and we discuss the numbers. So while we were discussing the numbers, so she now asked me that, accountant, thank you. I've seen this your report. So the report looks very beautiful. But do you know that this revenue that you said is that fine? Of course, the revenue is correct that we have now. The revenue looks good, Abi, yes. But there is no cash. Accountant, what could have happened? As someone with experience in that aspect, I quickly said that, Madam, I know if there is no cash, let me tell you the problem. So let's go. Take me to your store. Do you have a store? Yes, we have a store. Take me to your store, madam. When we got to the store, madam started showing me. See, see packs. They also make fresh fruit juices. So they buy those packs, those bottles. They make some other juices. So they have to buy milk, large bag of, of these uh, uh, um, powder milk. They buy so many things like that. Everywhere is just, loaded. I say, eh? I said, what about this your freezers? What about this your freezers? Madam said, the freezers, we have fresh juices there. Oh. Madam, open the freezer, let me see. To my surprise, to my greatest surprise, do you know what I found? The about 3 long freezers in that store were filled up with fresh juices, fruit juices. And I said, oh, that is good. Madam, let's go and discuss. I said that, Madam, you see, the cash that you are looking for, it is what you have invested in all those things that is there. That is the cash now. Now, let me tell you how you will know that that is the cash. Just imagine that even if you are able to, we cannot talk about the inventory because we have to use the inventory to produce before they sell. So those ones that you have produced now, the fresh juices that you have produced. Now, just imagine that we are able to sell all these things right now, this point. What will happen? She said, yes, accountant, thank you. That is true. This is my cash. And I gave her how she can do a kind of social media marketing that will drive traffic. I gave her ideas on how she can market, she can drive more traffic that so that there will be cash flow in the business. So you have to be able to identify as a professional what the core problem is actually is what the core problems are in the business and not be distracted with irrelevancies. Then you should be able to analyze these issues, then develop and compare alternative solutions. So the idea is that, sometimes the madam, let me use the madam as an example. There was also another time where she called us that, okay, accountant, please come on. I want to expand this business. I want to expand this business and I'm planning of renting another space, apart from the current space that she has. And so when we asked her about that current space, right, and we saw the amount of rent she will be paying annually, so we had to recommend that instead of this rent, madam, can we talk about you taking you buying that a particular building and do your job there? She was like, I don't know. We now started giving her ideas on if we can secure a loan, if you can secure a loan and we use it to buy the house and you pay back the loan. So we had to compare what will be which one is the best? Is it to go for the rent or to actually buy the house? Today, the woman is now the owner of that building, though she's yet to complete the payment. But of course, she will complete the payment and the house, the building will finally become that of the business. Right. So you have to be able to compare alternatives. Is it more profitable to go for higher purchase or buy outrightly? Should you use NPV to appraise the project, or use payback period, or use any other alternatives? Then you have to also consider the advantages and disadvantages of these solutions you are presenting, just like what we did to the madam. Then you can select the best solution and make it as your what? As your recommendation for action. And the last part of your role as the analyst is that what? You write up, you write up, you write up your case analysis in appropriate what? Listen to this. In appropriate report format. Please mark this. This is the first time I'm mentioning appropriate report format because you cannot just write the report. When it comes to ICANN, it's not just anyhow report. You may fail the exam. It has to be in a particular way that meets certain criteria for you to pass the paper. Okay, so mark that appropriate report format. Then, what are those steps in making recommendations? You express your recommendations precisely, just like what I did to the madam. I told her precisely what she should do in terms of the cash flow. I told her what she should do. We have to drive traffic so that these inventories can move. Then cash, there will be cash. Not that you say, maybe you should do this, maybe you should do this. No, you have to be precise. It has to be achievable. And that is the recommendations are what? Complementary. It must achieve results. It must give them results. They must be able to implement the recommendations. Right? Then we can also talk about what makes a good case analysis. How can you say your analysis is okay, is good? Now, the first thing is that you must have clearly identified the core or relevant problems. Remember, I mentioned this earlier. Yes. Not that you'll be talking about the board information when they are asking you liquidity. Maybe they want to know their performance. They want to know. They want to know why they are having a particular issue. You not be talking about irrelevancies. No, you must have identified the core or relevant problem. Now, in ICANN case study, it means that you must have answered what the case requirement. You must have answered the case requirement. That's the requirement. It makes you to identify the core problems. You know, if you are answering the requirement, it will force you to go and identify why they are asking that question, why they are asking those questions. Then analyze the issues, analyze the issues, right? The issues you have identified or underlining those problems, you know, in terms of relevant theory, right? Maybe they want you to look at those external factors that are affecting the performance of the business. Of course, you can use Pestel model. You can perform SWOT analysis. You can even use Potter's 5 forces. If they want to know they want to understand the the reason for competition in the industry, the impact of competition in that industry. Then we can say, yes, you may use the appropriate terminology. Then you have to what? Present feasible and complementary recommendations. Just like I said earlier on, your recommendation must be that your recommendation will be able to give the results. It must give them the result they want. Right? And the report and the best solution presented in what? Your inappropriate report format. You must present all those things that you have done in appropriate report format. You can see that gradually, little by little, you are being introduced to what appropriate report format, because report writing is the major thing. There's no amount of analysis that you might have carried out on a particular case. If you refuse to present it in your report, you have done nothing. Okay? So the other thing is that I normally get this question, that is there a best answer for a case analysis? And the truth is that there is no best answer for a case analysis. And the reason is that, you see, we are rational human beings, and as such, we have our individual ability to select the best alternative situation. I mean, alternative solution in a particular situation. The same thing, that attitude is just like when you want to buy, you go to the market now, you want to buy something. And on getting to the market, the normal product I usually buy is now is now saying 2,000 naira. There's 2,000 naira difference on the price, and there is another brand that is about 1,000 naira lower in price to your normal brand. What will you do as a rational human being? What you will do? You go for the lower brand and say, so far this one can achieve achieve what I want to do, then you go for it. The same thing is applicable when you put different professionals. You know, some people have said that when you put about 50 professionals, if I arrange 50 of you as professional or chartered accountant and give you a particular case, you will see that you will be seeing the case in different perspectives. You'll be looking at it in different perspectives. You'll be making slightly different, recommendations on the case. Is because of the way we see things as human beings. The same thing is applicable in real life, you know. So in real life too, when people are discussing on a particular issue, you see them having different opinions. The same thing is applicable to case study. There is no one way or right or wrong answer to case study. But the only thing that is there is that because there is a technique that can be used that is required. There are requirements. So if you can follow the requirement, what will happen is that the case study students will be having different perspective, but these different perspective will be going in the same direction. That's the thing about case study, but there is no one right answer for case study. Okay, so generally detailed analysis should include the following: investigate and analyze the complaint history and growth. So for detailed analysis, you have to be able to investigate and analyze the complaint history and growth. What they normally do in case studies is that ICANN will present to us the the information about the history of the business. Part of the information is the financial statement. Some other information is that the story about how the business started, the background information about the business will be given. So that will give us an idea of where the business is coming. It will also help you to understand how they have come across these issues that they are currently into, and maybe their future plans. Then you have to analyze the strengths and weaknesses of the companies, in addition to the opportunities and threats in the what you gather in the what external environment. Analyze your findings, you make conclusion and what as well as recommendations. So I can also talk about three ways to read cases effectively. So there was this professor, William Elliott. William Elliott. He's a um, professor of MBA at Harvard Business School. Okay, so he wrote a book on case study, and he said that now case study is a new technique in teaching. There are different teaching techniques. The other one is the lecture technique. This one is case technique. And if you see in UK recently, in UK and some other advanced countries, this is the technique they are using, right? Because I get most of these requests from students to help them to solve cases. So that is what they do. So is a way to bridge the gap between the theory and practical. And the issue with cases is that they are presented in a non-linear way. It will be totally illogical, right? So there will be a need for you to have a particular process to read in order to understand the case. So the first thing you can do is that you can skim for an overview. So usually when I get a case or when precinct comes out, the first thing I will do is that I will skim through the case. While skimming, I will just try to look at it and go through it. Then the next thing is that I will read actively and take notes. I will read actively and take notes. I will underline certain things. I feel that we likely be making more. They are likely trying to pass more information, more than what they have actually put into the case. So once I'm done with that, I will now look at those points I've noted, and I will analyze and reflect on it. So by analyzing and reflecting on these issues that I've identified, or these things, those notes I've taken, that will now give me a broader perspective of the case. Okay, so you can always employ this process. Of course, we will practicalize this process in we will do a more practical part of this process in the class. So the other thing is that what are those factors that that distinguish between between the between successful candidates in case study exam? What are those factors that 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 put apart successful candidates from the unsuccessful ones? The first thing is the planning and strict time management. So when we talk about planning, it means that you must have actually done some kind of planning. You must have read, you must have planned, you must have practiced report writing and all that. The other part is the strict time management. Now, usually, okay, usually the timing in case study is meant to be like this. So for reading, we are supposed to read for 1 hour. Reading should not take us more than 1 hour. Okay, calculations calculations should take just 1 hour. Take just 1 hour, right? So for that 1 hour, requirement one should take only 30 minutes. Requirement two should take another what? 30 minutes. Report writing should take the remaining 2 hours. Okay, now let's look at this reading. You see that this reading, because of the reading time, that is why they will give us present. So present is more like little part, it's not like about 30 to 40% of case story. Okay, so what we would have done, this one would have been given to us before the exam day. What we would have done is that during our present analysis, we read this present, and understand it very well, so that there's no way you see the remaining part of the case that you not have a complete understanding of the case. Okay, so what I'm saying is that time management should come in form of, since you have read about 30 to 40% part of the of this, so the unseen will be added together with the present in the exam to complete the case story. Okay, what I'm saying is that instead of spending 1 hour, you should not spend up to 1 hour again. Now you should save about 30 minutes from this. You should save 30 minutes. From this. These 30 minutes can now be added to this, because you need more time. Right? Can be added to this part so that you have more time to. And again, you should make sure that you adhere strictly to this time that has been allotted to each part of the case. Okay, so that is one of the the factors: strict time management, good quality written financial statement analysis. You must write it in such a way to meet certain standards. Good quality financial data analysis. This is more like project appraisal. It must be properly explained. You must present your appendix very well and cross-reference it in the body of your report. You must use appropriate materials from the case scenario. You know, you must use appropriate materials so that, because there are irrelevant materials and all that, so you must be able to use appropriate ones. And there are situations whereby cases test different skills. So you must know so we'll talk more on those on this skill. So you must know the particular skill that is being tested and the material that is relevant to what is being tested. Else, it's not like when nobody asks you to do business analysis, you are doing business analysis and you are doing project. You are using PESTEL or SWOT model when nobody has asked you to do that. Okay. Then you must make you must develop your analysis through judgment into reasoned conclusion and recommendation. So your conclusion must flow from what? From your analysis, which is also flowing from the requirement. Okay. Then references to appropriate economic and industrial factors, including ethical issues, as given in the case. Then you must also demonstrate professional skepticism and ability to make assumptions. You challenge and make assumptions. Okay? Skepticism is that you are not taking every data and information presented to you as though they were to be 100% correct. You should proofread your work. Then again, write a well-structured what? Report. In appropriate what? In appropriate format. This is more like the third time that it is coming out. It shows how important, like I've said, I've shown you 80% of the of 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 the marks allocated go to what? Go to report writing. What candidate needs to do to be successful in case study exam? You must understand the business scenario. Just like the example I made the other time, when your friend called you to gist you about the issue he or she is facing, and you could not understand it, how will you advise your friend? The same thing is applicable to case study. You must understand the case. The case must be crystal clear to you. No ambiguity, no confusion. It must be clear. Right? You must remember that marks are allocated for clear demonstration of professional skills. Right? So later on, I will show you that there are certain professional skills that are being tested in cases. You must understand and deal with the requirement. You must understand and deal with the requirement and nothing else. The requirements must take your priority. You cannot lose sight on the requirement. The skills and competencies needed cannot be developed over a few weeks of preparation for the exam. You will need to have planned and developed your professional skills by practicing what? By practicing with past cases. So at the end of the day, we'll give you about 3 cases to write a report on. So this will help you to practice the report writing skill that you have been taught. So let me quickly share an experience with you. So last week Sunday, I was at our VI center. So while I was waiting to get into a class, so I just saw one of our students in November 2023 die coming in. I said, Oga, did you pass your case? So he said, no, I did not pass. So I said, why now? He said, Oga, it's not your fault. Oh, it's not your fault. And this guy, I used to know him to be the kind of person that takes things not very seriously. Like when I'm telling them, write the report I advise you to write, they say, okay, I will write it, you will write it. He never took the advice very seriously. So he now said that, okay, it's not your fault. When I got to the exam, I was faced with the reality The exam was my practice for report writing. That was my downfall. That was what he told me. I said, your case is more like uh, uh, those people that it is when they get to heaven that they know the truth. So I will implore you that don't wait. Don't you ever dare to plan to use the actual case study exam as your practice. No, that is wrong. In fact, I will simplify it in such a way that the report will be very easy for you to write. I will simplify it. And what I will ask you to write is what I've demonstrated in the class. I would have demonstrated that writing step by step in the class. And I will just ask you to go and complete some parts and have a full report and submit to me. Then maybe you can practice on some other cases. So you would have practiced before and not that you go and practice in the exam. Apply your professional skepticism. I've talked about this the other time. And demonstrate your ethical awareness. You did ethics in CSMA. So here in case study, usually they will put in ethical issues for you to demonstrate your ethical awareness. So you have to demonstrate that, oh, these are the ethical issues in this case. Evaluate the outcome of your analysis and provide clear judgment. Develop clear conclusions and state any reservation. Make recommendations based on your analysis. Produce a well-structured report. Produce a well-structured report. It is coming again. Which will include what? Executive summary as well as what? Appendices. Using suitable language to communicate on what? Your ideas. Listen to this point. It is very essential, very important, very critical that every candidate develop a well-structured approach to case study, which will enable them to maximize their chances of success. Their chances of success. What is this structured approach? You should have planned how you will solve the case and thereby come up with a report. I will give you the simplified approach. Myself, Jimo Olalikon, will give you that approach. Understand it, practice it, apply it directly to the case and pass. Because I want you to pass. We all want you to pass. So how should you deal with case study material in the exam? So the idea is that don't just say that you have read the pre-seen before and maybe you don't look at the unseen. No. You have to look at the pre-seen and the unseen together so that you can get a holistic picture of the case, right? So study and analyze the pre-seen before the exam. Start by reading the case study exam requirement, noting your role and result of your report. Read rapidly. Okay, then reread the requirement to ensure you completely understand what you have been asked to do. Then read the case study exhibit one by one, noting on a separate sheet of paper. Maybe in the exam you might not be able to do that, but you can underline key points with maybe pencil or so. With pencil or something of such. Excuse me. Then reread the numerical exhibit carefully as the first step in your financial analysis. Then start your analytical work and write. Start your analytical work and write what? And write a report. And write a report. Okay? Okay, so the steps to be followed, which should be practiced as an essential part of a candidate's required preparation, Candidate required preparation for the case study can be broadly listed under 5 main headings. Assimilation of all the data and information provided. You must assimilate all the data and information provided to you. You must do your financial statement analysis, understand the financial history of the business. You must do the financial, you must understand the financial data analysis. What is the financial context or issue or project that they are looking to go into? Then look at the operational and strategic issues. Then develop industry and business awareness, including ethical considerations. So lastly, before we go today, so I normally try to, in order for me to help you understand the idea of what we are actually doing when it comes to case study analysis. So I normally look at similarities between medical doctors and chartered accountants. Okay. So you agree with me that for the medical doctors, they normally deal with what? With patients. They look at the health of the patient. And as accountants, we look at business what? Issues. We look at business issues. So the first step is that the doctor will take the patient through a process known as diagnosis. And what is the doctor trying to achieve there? The doctor will try to look at the history of the patient. Like you go as far as looking at the family history, ask certain questions so that the doctor can understand certain things that has been happening in the family long before you are now having your own presentation. So for our own case, we'll be presented with the financial statement, some transactions, and some financial indicators and all that. And we will be presented with some other background information. All of this will help us to do a kind of diagnosis on the business in order to understand the business, the history of the business. And after understanding the history of the patient, the doctor cannot just say, "Oh, I think you are only having malaria." No, the doctor will not do that. What will the doctor do? The doctor will subject the patient to a series of medical tests. So what we do is that we will conduct audits, we do financial analysis, we do project analysis, we do project appraisal and all that in order to establish our facts. So once we are done with that, the doctor will interpret the results, right? What we will do is we interpret those analyses that we have conducted, we interpret them. And at the end of the day, he will determine the diagnosis, right? He will conclude on the diagnosis by saying that, oh, based on the analysis I've done, based on the test result and all that, this is a simple case of what? A simple case of malaria. Then you will now identify strengths and weaknesses. Maybe it is liquidity problem they are having, it is whatever problem they are having, you make a conclusion on it. Then the doctor will do what? The doctor will prescribe medications, and we as accountant will make our what? We make recommendations. We make recommendations. That is what we do. Okay, that is what we do. And that is the end of this lecture. So let me give you the remaining 25 minutes. 25 minutes for questions. Thank you. So, any question for me?